do apologize for starting the Thursday edition of the Camnet TV Breakfast Show late, but nevertheless, we do appreciate for your time, and we know for a fact that stakeholders have continued bringing in their perspective in terms of the resignation of the former Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation Minister in Stanley Kakubo over alleged financial scandals, and these plus more issues are stories that we're going to be talking about this morning. And I'm your host, Nelson Zulu, and I'm not alone in the studio. I'm joined by my colleague
Vincent Perry. Good morning.
Morning. Thank you. I know it's a rainy Thursday, and we talk nothing but governance, policy, and politics.
And politics.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the issues of rains. It goes back to the issues of governance, politics, and whatnot. So I think it's a good time to have this discussion.
It's a good time to have this discussion indeed, wherever you're joining us from. It's good morning to you, and thank you so much for joining us this morning. Now we got directly into our first segment this morning, which is the Health Corner, and we get to look at what the doctors have for us this morning.
Hi, welcome to the Health Corner on the Breakfast Show on Camnet TV. I am Dr. Nakwea Namfaya. So this week we have been talking about hypertension, and yesterday we talked about how hypertension can be treated and how it is diagnosed in the hospital. So we say that high blood pressure needs to be checked in the hospital, and they can check your blood pressure, and if your blood pressure is high on more than 2 occasions, then you are hypertensive. So we also say that hypertension can be treated, and you need to take your medications as prescribed in the hospital. So today we'll talk about some of the complications of high blood pressure. High blood pressure can cause many complications in the body, and it's important that we know what these complications may be, or you can prevent yourself from having hypertension if you are not hypertensive. So some of the complications include heart diseases. Hypertension can cause heart diseases. It can cause coronary artery disease. It can cause hypertensive heart disease, congestive heart disease, heart failure. So you need to protect your heart, because your heart is the one that pumps out blood into the body. And so if there is high blood pressure in the body, then your heart will become affected, and it has to pump with a greater force because of the pressure that is there in the vessels. So because of that, it can have complications. So your heart might become enlarged. You might start experiencing chest pain. You might start experiencing difficulties breathing, running out of breath very easily, fatigue, and many other complications that might arise from having a heart condition. So it's important that you take your medications as prescribed. The other complications that arise from hypertension is that it causes hardening of the blood vessels. Because of the blood pressure, the high blood pressure that is in the blood vessels, they become hardened. And because of that, they can cause a lot of complications like artery diseases, whether it's coronary artery disease in the heart or in the legs. You can have peripheral artery disease. And these may cause so many other complications. So it's important that you also make sure that you are regulating or treating your blood pressure if you have hypertension. The other complications of hypertension is that if your blood pressure becomes too high, it can cause a stroke. And people with stroke have got so many disabilities. So you do not want to end up not being able to walk, not being able to move or do things on your own because of hypertension. You need to be able to control your blood pressure at home. Then the other thing that hypertension affects is your kidneys. Your kidneys control your blood pressure to a very large extent. And so if the blood pressure is increasing in your body, even your kidneys become affected. And so you might end up having end-stage kidney disease, and you might end up needing to do dialysis because your kidneys are not functioning the way that they should. So these are some of the complications that high blood pressure can present with. The other organs include the eyes. So you might have a retinopathy, and it might even lead to blindness because of hypertension. So all these are some of the things that hypertension can cause in the body, and you just need to be aware of them and do your best to prevent yourself from getting these complications. So you need to be taking your medications, and you need to have lifestyle modifications that you can do to prevent yourself from having hypertensive emergency or having too high blood pressure where it's more than 180 and above, or even if for those that do not have hypertension, for you to prevent yourself from getting hypertension. So tomorrow we'll be discussing what are some of the preventive measures that you can take to prevent hypertension, and the same measures can be used for people who have hypertension already. If you already have hypertension and you implement these preventive measures, you can reduce your hypertension to a very large degree. So it's important for everyone, whether you're hypertensive or non-hypertensive. So today we are learning that hypertension can cause so many complications in the body, and so many organs can be affected by hypertension. So some of the organs include the heart, the brain, the kidneys, and the eyes. So make sure you protect yourself from having these complications by taking your medications as prescribed and living a healthy lifestyle. So tomorrow, make sure you watch for how you can prevent hypertension or even reduce your hypertension or your blood pressure. Thank you so much for watching.
Much to Dr. Nakubiyana Mufwaya right there, just giving insights in terms of hypertension. Others do refer to it as BP. Yeah, most commonly here in Zambia, because even at the age of 12 or 14, you find that someone has got hypertension, and this to some extent never used to be the case back then. You'd only get to wonder that this disease was common among the elderly.
Yes. And I think this is the kind of information we need, because as it stands, I don't think a lot of people know the fact that BP can affect even young people. So we need such information from our health professionals.
Well, BP can affect even the young people. We just need to be on the lookout. It's very important, because we only get to safeguard our own health if we really get concerned. And now we move directly into the money market and look at how the dollar is faring against the kwacha. There you have it on your screen. The euro is buying at 28 kwacha 0.03 ngwe and selling at 28 kwacha 0.58 ngwe. The Great British Pound is buying at 32 kwacha 0.31 ngwe, selling at 32 kwacha 0.94 ngwe. The South African Rand is buying at 1 kwacha 0.37 ngwe and selling at 1 kwacha 0.40 ngwe. The United States dollars is buying at 25 kwacha 0.33 ngwe, selling at 25 kwacha 0.83 ngwe. And remember that these exchange rates, they vary from bank to bank. You've been up to speed in terms of issues relating to the economy. The dollar is at 25 kwacha 0.83 ngwe, and it's almost in race, in tune with about 26.
Wow, very shocking. I don't know what measures are being put in place? Or we have just accepted the fact that the kwacha is not performing well? I always say this, that has been updated around 7 something, the time when business has not yet started. What will happen when businesses will start operating? We are seeing, believe you me, by 10 hours, it will be 25 kwacha, 19 ngwe. Tomorrow we might go into 26 kwacha, which is not a good sign.
Well, tomorrow we might go into 26 kwacha. You'll be here, I believe, to give updates in terms of how we've gone, how we're faring against the major convertibles. But nevertheless, be rest assured that our phone lines are now open. You too can come through with your contribution, your perspective on the stories that we're just going to be looking at as we go into the zooming headlines segment. And the story that we get to look at this morning comes from some traders at Lusaka's Libala market who have bemoaned the 100% market levy increase by the Lusaka City Council LCC amid its payment of electricity and water bills. The traders told Camnet News that the local authority increased the market levy without notice, adding that the cost is unbearable as they also pay electricity and water bills. We'll also get to look at another story where a human rights commentator, Michael Zulu, has demanded answers from the state and the Zambia police on the death of a 24-year-old Stumbeko who died in police custody.
Traders from Lusaka City Council-run markets have continued to complain over the decision by the city authority to hike market levy for 2024. LCC has increased the market levy to prevent sub-renting of stores by tenants who later pay levies to the authority. Recently, traders at Cheston Market complained over the hike of market levy from 220 kwacha to 800 kwacha for 2024. Libana market traders are the latest to complain over the decision, as the traders Tuesday were informed over the 100% market levy hike. The traders lament that the hike is not manageable, as they are also paying electricity bills, including arrears owed by the council.
Let's say when I want from 100 kwacha, I should increase the 200. Manje iyo tikalipira market levy tenzo zote muri malaiti na mans but vose evo tiguna teka manje government itiganizira po brand mali hivi because it's a market tikakonka tipangana ndrama za bavati branch all market tizo kuti niyo tandiza abantu batawovutika.
One, we pay electricity ourselves individually. Secondly, we pay water individually. Then we have increased our rentals, the levies. So the levies which we are paying, sometimes we are paying 100 kwacha, so they have increased to 200. So you are saying cannot manage.
The traders have vowed to petition the council if all avenues of engagement fails.
They say we are not using the power. You people are using the power, the marketeers. We know it's our debt, but you are the marketeers, you pay the electricity debt. So that's the dilemma we have. So we told them yesterday, look, we're not accepting the 100% increment. So we are yet to see the way forward when the councillor comes. But we also have another option. We want to petition the council to say, look, you can't just increase without consulting the marketeers. And you can't increase 100%. It's not fair on the marketeers.
The Lusaka City Council has, however, vowed to maintain the levy changes to ensure that it collects maximum revenue in its markets.
And the increments differ from market to market, so I can tell you that the increments are not only for Cheston, but in almost all the markets. Now, this is a situation where these shops were rented to some people who then sub-rented them to other people, and they were charging them, for example, 2,500, and us have chosen to charge now the people directly.
For Camnet TV News, Afias Kaptula, Lusaka.
On Wednesday, December 20th, 2023, Camnet TV News aired a story where a 24-year-old man of Mongu district died in Mongu Central Police cells. This sparked social media reactions and submissions on whether this could be a case of police brutality, which was experienced a few years back. According to family members interviewed on the fateful day, they were only informed of their relative's death when they were to visit him in the cells.
The police, they are saying that he died around 03 hours. From the time the police didn't inform us or call the family members. We are just informed that the body has been taken to the mortuary without the consent of the relatives.
Hakuna mtu yaeza kuizi mama seozi ahuwa kuti aba mutwi na mwaruzi bela mtu yahuwa kwale kwa maseozi anafua immediately mpokola wana nwantobola wamata kuyoeza control situation.
Human rights commentator Michael Zulu has added his voice, demanding for answers from the state and the Zambia police on the death of the 24-year-old Stumbeko. Mr. Zulu says the statement from the police that Stumbeko was allegedly beaten by his cellmates is not adding up, saying the cells at the station are close to the inquiries and that officers could have heard the noise.
The brutal killing of a 24-year-old Mongo resident, Stumbeko, while in police custody, raises more questions on the issue of police brutality, which the police command must answer, the state must answer, and the Human Rights Commission must answer, because police brutality has become a norm in Zambia. What is even more worrying is that the investigations are allegedly being conducted by officers from the same police station, which again raises questions. So we would like to call on, sincerely call on the authorities, the government, the Human Rights Commission, and all the stakeholders in the human rights space to take this matter seriously so that we avoid more deaths at the hands of the police.
But police spokesperson Ray Hamonga has ruled out allegations that his officers are involved in the issue, saying investigations, including a post-mortem, has revealed that the deceased was indeed beaten and one suspect has since been identified and charged for murder.
As in custody, another suspect who was in custody by the names of Wasamunu did actually inflict pains on the deceased person. So investigations were instituted and the statements were recorded from the other suspects that were in the cells, also what transpired. And thereafter we, on the 20th of December, we did conduct a post-mortem, which actually was consistent with what was alleged to have happened, that this person actually was beaten by this other suspect who inflicted pains on him. I mean injuries, and he sustained some injuries and bleeding from the nose. A suspect by the name of Wasamunu has since been charged for the offense of murder.
On the other hand, human rights defenders have gone behind their keyboards, flooding social media with a question: who killed Stumbeko in police custody? Whatever the answer may be, it is everyone's hope that justice will be served, and served soon. Vincent Piri for Camnet TV News, Lusaka.
Question indeed continue to power up on who killed Stumbeko, a Mongo youth at the age of 24 years old. I know for a fact that you brought in this story and you have meat in terms of what exactly transpired, and you following up and giving us an update in terms of what is the current progress. Okay, so as you might have heard in the report there, I had the opportunity to meet the police spokesperson just to get how far we have gone with this story, because there are questions that were being asked by members of the public, more so on social media. And the response from the police is that the police were in no way involved. And they just saw someone who was being beaten, and the condition was bad. They had to rush him to the hospital and unfortunately passed away. And so the question now, as you heard from human rights defenders, they want to get what really happened. Why did the police come to the rescue of that young man? Yeah, all those are concerns, but I think also in that report you brought in the fact that, you see, a post-mortem was conducted, and you managed to, or police rather, did manage to confirm that yes, this young man died at the helm of the police cells while in Mongo. Is the story, like, from there adding up in terms of how does it happen for someone to be beaten when police officers are supposed to be there in terms of seeing the operations that are happening in the police cell?
Within the police cells, yeah, that's a question as well. And I think the first story that was aired, that was on 20th of this month, if I'm not mistaken, our reporter there in Mongu did mention that the family members refused the postmortem results because they believed the doctor who was conducting the postmortem
had connived with?
Connived with the police. And so they couldn't believe what came out of that postmortem.
Well, you two can simply call in and give us your contribution on what we're actually talking about with regards to zooming in the stories that were making headlines in our previous bulletin. And we do know for a fact that at a later stage also we'll be joined by Mr. Anford Banda, who's just going to be here and helping us understand in terms of what should be happening. We know for a fact that cries over the continued cost of living also have been the much talked about issue. We know for a fact also that the depreciation of the kwacha has been one thing that has been very topical in recent days, and these are also issues that you can also bring in terms of how you're coping up out there wherever you're getting us from. Remember that we're coming live to you within Lusaka, that is on channel 25 on Go TV, channel 106 on Topstar, channel 274 on DSTV, as well as Facebook and YouTube. And not forgetting that we're also on the Lumix World Television app. You too can have that app on your phone and you can have access to this live transmission. What are some of the stories that we still get to look at this morning?
Okay, the story here is coming from Kabanana, where several houses have been flooded following heavy rains on Tuesday, 27th December 2023. The residents talked to by Camnet TV explain that floods have left them stranded and in fear of contracting cholera, as the cases have already started being recorded. Another story is coming from Chilenje Market, and it's in relation to the flooding issues that we always talk about. And here the government has advised marketeers across the country to ensure that they trade in clean environment amid the cholera outbreak. Speaking when he officiated at the launch of the paved road that leads into Chilenje Market, Local Government Permanent Secretary Mambo Hamaundu said marketeers play a vital role in ensuring that the cholera outbreak is brought under control. Let's have a look at these stories.
Most parts of Zambia's capital city, Lusaka, experience flooding almost every rainy season. Several households in Lusaka's Kabanana compound of Mandevu constituency have been flooded following the rains that have been experienced in recent days. Some of the residents have attributed the situation to lack of a proper drainage system in the area, which has led to water being diverted into their homes.
No drainage, so mazi akabwera chabe kutoa chabe kumurundu many way konso kumazi road ni amene ya mazi ija road ija yenda kuja kuchani kuja ku drainage ya kuja na hivyo jabana boroka so mazi wonse kutoka many way post pa murunda hapa road ni amene
kuchiputika na manzi kugenewa na manzi bali batatiza basunga kwa mvula ikangoroka bose mwanyamuka mwapochosa manzi kumanyumba niziwa wana manje ishikugota kwa tikangogota ni kwacha nipete tikarekeche kugota
kuno drainage eyishiri kati eyishiri bwino drainage eyishiri bwino so tureba affected amenshi yaringira mu mayanda afirya so tureba sana affected munandi wa drainage so government buri atuwafuidisha ko vivutulelomba buri drainage basa bombera ko pakti twa baba kuikala mu.
Other residents are living in fear of contracting cholera and tell this journalist that more than 3 cases have so far been recorded.
Na cholera kuna alisema ukisa so munani wa mesha eda so tibemba kushabe bome salanga nilepo tapapata
janja ula kuno manzi achingenera mu nyumba kuno kwatu kwa chazanga pasaiti pachalo vandu vimanzi vitingenera manyumba na kolera inafika mtipangira ngoni madrene tikumbukire nkoni kuno tipempa wakansela watu batiyanganirepo kuno kwa chazanga vimanzi vitingenera manyumba mvula ikamba kuloka tiopa na kunkala manyumba pachalo vandu saiti hapa batiyanganireko drainage vimanzi ni fulu vandu ataira mo vimabini vashitapani makolera atifikira ise.
Others have questioned the effectiveness of the Constituency Development Fund CDF alleging that the construction of the drainage system was supposed to be done by 2022.
I'm on a 2021 project. 2021 project, number 3 in 2024. Tabaresta implement. So number if into file yakwisa. I want to drainage damage na yengira monso mu mayanda monso if yakuli afyonse takuli. Nangu badie mwemu benga leta lero if yakuli bapeli. The solution ya solution to refuaya. Ni solution ya kuwapangira abantu drainage. Wapangira bamona solution ya kutialaba.
Nyumba one side drainage kuyagumuka one side kusogola kuja kwa panga wetu crack. Hii office kwa mina inagwa pa number 1 paje inagwa kuja kuchikupa nyumba yangu inapanga na macrack muri tenant ya mina nkaramu. Sinizwa anytime ita nyumba ingagwele mwana wa bene bake nzapesa kama problem ndi.
Meanwhile, Kabanana Ward 27 area councillor Joseph Katongo has assured of a temporary measure to the drainage system but appealed to the central government to come on board.
So if they are not seeing this development they are crying for, so my humble appeal to the government, especially to council engineers and procurement, make sure that this project is done as quick as possible so that come 2024-2025 rain season, people shouldn't be going through what we have seen.
According to Future Resilience for African Cities and Lands research of 2018, indiscriminate disposal of waste, poor drainage design, and poor solid waste management, among other factors, have led to persistent flooding issues in Zambia. Nelson Zulu for Camnet News, Lusaka.
On the 25th of December 2023, the paving of roads that lead into the Chilenje market that were in a deplorable state for some time commenced. The bad roads made it difficult for businesses in and around the market to run, especially during the rainy season. And Wednesday 27th, the official groundbreaking ceremony for the Chilenje market paving project took place. Speaking at the ceremony, Kawata Member of Parliament Andrew Tayengwa assured Kawata constituency that there are more CDF projects underway for the people of Kawata. Mr. Tayengwa has also urged the Lusaka City Council at the market to ensure that no trader is allowed to trade from the roads once they are paved.
You know, when we do the paving, when we complete this exercise of paving Chilenje markets, sinifuna vakanso mukambe kuchita allow okuhona abantu vazichita trade mwamene murojo. So vakanso I'll be coming to check on you all the time to ensure that this market papewa paving apa palipe vanhu vamene vachimaika pamatebo oro kuvamba kutrading irapo. Investors are nine. The other issue the permanent secretary, what we want also is also to ensure that the council should put a barrier, a height barrier, to prevent some of the heavy duty vehicles. Kama ngena matraki ya kuru, mapeva za menti zaika pangabazamba kunola matraki ya meri more than 10 tons, siya zankara.
And speaking at the same event, guest of honor, Ministry of Local Government for Administration, Permanent Secretary, Mambo Hamaundu, has emphasized the need for members of the public to take care of their environment and themselves amidst the cholera outbreak.
And thank you to the good people of Chilenje. I want to wish all of you a happy 2024 and God's blessing, and let us show love to one another by ensuring that we take care of our environment. Let us throw litter on our bins. Let us ensure that before we eat, we wash our hands. Let us also ensure that any water, any drinking water,
Meanwhile, Cecilia Banda, Marketeers representative, says marketeers in Chilenje are elated by the paving of the roads around the market.
We are in from Chilenje. Then question expect if you go at the film or village suma. Nakusala ula kulia, na kwa tuwe no kwa chama nensu. Mbalo le sheko na bena bakusala ula na kwa window, ngefe tu aufa window kuno ku market. Vonse tuwa marketia.
then tuleba makana bonse kwati market abatukuya bakirenje bayitupera omukintu tukuya market isuma I market batukulira yakuti bonse tulekwata okushishamo so bonse eko bayitupera omukinda mitien tukwata okuwa market abaki mwene tubatuleta market yakirenje yali bali market ya green nishi tuibutukira so bonse ba market ya tien tukwata okuingira mu market omuntu
Cherish Sibote for Camnet News, Lusaka.
All right, stories there coming from our communities. We had one from Kabanana where houses have been flooded. Nelson, you are the one who did that story. How was the mood, first of all, and how are the residents coping?
Well, I'll tell you that the mood was not really conducive because the residents themselves were really agitated. They were angry. They thought the area council has been collecting CDF money and then he's been pocketing for himself.
Oh.
That was first the allegation that was there, because you can imagine that water was just passing through their homes, and then they're telling you that we've not spent a night since maybe 01 somewhere there.
Since the rain started?
Yes, and then you find that most of their clothes, their belongings are soaked. So that was among the issues that came out. But, you know, after some time, they reached a consensus, obviously, and that a temporary measure was going to come up with, because one thing that they did allude to the fact, too, was that there's a blockage somewhere on the drainage, which has led now to water being diverted into their homes. So they want first of all to operate on the clogged drainage. Once they do that, and then they'll now look at the permanent solution, which is in the year 2024 somewhere there. But for now, they're still sorting out for temporary measures of how they're going to survive. But I can tell you to say the mood was really not conducive.
And they don't want to vote coming to 2026.
They're even questioning if they'll vote, because they're claiming that despite the voting even on several occasions, they haven't seen any sort of development. But the area councillor was there to give them assurance that, you see, after a certain period of time, development has not just happened overnight. We are trying to push for these things, and we saw one also that was complaining to say, we were told that this project was actually approved in 2021. It was supposed to be worked on. We're expecting it to be done by 2022. What has happened? There's no any response. Does that mean that we've not received our monies, or our monies have been chewed? There are all those concerns.
Yeah, I think the issues of monitoring these projects, I don't think we are doing much in that area, because once you are given the money, I think someone somewhere must be questioned. Why isn't this project done within the agreed time frame? We don't have to get to such extent where lack of proper implementation of CDF projects is affecting residents. And we understand that these projects, I mean the CDF funds, are supposed to benefit the citizens themselves. And the citizens are the people who choose what should be worked on in their community. And if they choose a drainage, why should it take a long period of time to be completed? I think also the other argument is the issues of approving these projects. So we have this whole system, the whole system compromised, I would say, for a lack of better term, because we start from the issues of approving the projects. They are approved towards the end of the year, and when the projects start, it's probably somewhere November, December. Why do we have that kind of system?
Yeah, I think for me also in such kind of a situation, when we talk about the issues of flooding, probably I would place the blame on two stakeholders, major stakeholders in this regard. First of all, it is the residents themselves, and then secondly, it is the local authority. Why? We do have a department that focuses on planning.
Yeah.
And I feel before they even acquire this land, especially the residents themselves, there's need to actually get some consultation from the local authorities in terms of those that do understand aspects of planning to say, are we supposed to build here or not? And then to some extent, you find that these planners, they're neither here nor there.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a problem. I think we need to do more when it comes to such, because the floods that we experience mostly in most parts of the city are avoidable. Very much avoidable. And just to get back to this same story, the councillor is on record that if those drainages in his ward are not worked on, the residents there shouldn't vote for him, firstly. They shouldn't vote for the MP, shouldn't vote for the mayor of Lusaka, and shouldn't vote for the president. So what are we likely to have in that area?
I'm not too sure in terms of what are we likely to have, because I'll tell you this, that a politician will always be a politician. And one thing also that we need to get to understand is the fact that, you see, there are a lot of factors that do come into play, and we need to understand that in as much as all these issues are going to come up, we also need to be very, very critical in terms of understanding what exactly is going to happen.
Yeah. We also had the story from Chilenje. What's your comment on that one?
The story from Chilenje market pertaining to
the paving of the roads around there.
The roads around there and the like. I think, yeah, that's a good move, given the fact that we've seen cases of cholera in Lusaka escalating. So it means that, one, even the trading space or the trading area itself will have to exhibit some sort of sanitation standards that are going to be very important or very cardinal in terms of the operations and ensuring that there's prevention of this disease. Just like we saw yesterday, Kanyama was declared as the epicenter of this outbreak. So meaning that if we the residents, if we the traders begin to put all these factors into consideration, it's going to be very easy for us to have a better understanding of how we can protect ourselves. Remember that prevention is better than cure. That's what they say.
Yeah, and I hope and pray that it doesn't end at groundbreaking.
Hopefully so. Yeah. Hopefully so.
And hopefully there'll be someone to monitor what's happening there, because the monitoring aspect of the CDF, we are not doing much. We are not doing fine.
Well, let's get to also look at another story, and I know for a fact that this story was filed by my colleague just sitting next to me, where former President Edgar Lungu has questioned the continued double standards being played by Republican President Hakainde Hichilema in the fight against corruption. The former head of state questions President Hichilema's fight against corruption, saying former Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation Minister Stanley Kakubo should be investigated and, if need be prosecuted and declared innocent or guilty by the due process of the law, not by the head of state. And opposition Citizens First Party President Harry Kalaba says acceptance of the resignation of former Foreign Affairs Minister Stanley Kakubo is a sad reality, confirming that the president is a weak leader who is failing to accept that there is grand corruption in his government. We also saw Minister of Information and Media, who is also government spokesperson, come to the fore and give a government perspective.
Not once, twice.
Twice, yeah.
In a day.
Twice in a day. I think the other response was somewhere in the evening, right?
Yeah.
And then the other one was somewhere in the afternoon.
In the afternoon when he had a briefing.
When he had a briefing, and it did take much time in terms of explaining what was happening to this alleged scandal and the resignation of the former minister. So it is interesting how we get to also get an update in terms of how far this case is going to go, because yes, we've seen a lot of stakeholders have raised eyebrows that, you see, this case may just be a formality in the public eye, but is it going to be a formality in the public eye? We're yet to see that. But also we did have another story from the courts, where we are also seeing the former Republican president
and here
some of the issues.
Yeah, and here the former head of state is urging the court, that is the Constitutional Court, to throw out the case where his eligibility to contest for the future elections is being challenged with cost. The former head of state argues that the petition against him is an abuse of the court process, because the court already pronounced itself as it ruled on this issue. And now this is in a matter where youth activist Michero Chizombe has filed a petition in the Constitutional Court declaring that Zambia's 60th President Edgar Lungu was not eligible to stand in the 2021 presidential election and is not eligible to contest any future elections. We can get... you want to add something?
Not really. I don't want to add anything. You know, it's a matter that is before the court, so we just wait and see how it gets to unfold, and then at the end of it all, we shall have a conclusive discussion altogether. But for now, let's leave it to the courts and let's get to look at those stories.
Amidst concerns over President Hakainde Hichilema's government fight against corruption, more questions demanding answers have been posed over the resignation of former Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation Minister Stanley Kakubo. Among persons to put forward their questions is Opposition Citizens First Party President Harry Kalaba, who says the acceptance of the resignation of the former minister is a sad reality, confirming that the president is a weak leader who is failing to accept that there is grand corruption in his government. Mr. Kalaba says Mr. Kakubo should have been fired, just like former Luapula Province Minister Derrick Chirundika was.
We are worried as Citizens First by the weaknesses that the president has exhibited on all this. And then also what worries us the most is the double standards that the president is applying. Why is it that the president has found it right to allow Minister Kakubo to resign on his own and not to fire him the way he fired Chirundika in Luapula Province? The fight against corruption has been compromised because the UPND, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema in particular, has never been serious with the fight against corruption. All he has been doing is to read statements written for him on corruption. That's what he does. To fight corruption in its entirety, he has never done that. And that is very sad.
Meanwhile, former President Edgar Lungu has questioned the continued double standards being played by Republican President Hakainde Hichilema in the fight against corruption. According to a statement seen by Camnet TV News, the former head of state is quoted as saying, "I am compelled to comment on Mr. Hakainde Hichilema's continued shielding of his ministers and other senior government officials from corruption allegations, while on the same time proclaiming that there will be no sacred cows in the fight against corruption." The statement continues saying, last year in April, when Kakubo was first accused of corruption, Mr. Hichilema, and not the Anti-Corruption Commission (ACC), was the one to declare him innocent. Meanwhile, in the letter from State House accepting Mr. Kakubo's resignation, President Hichilema thanked the former minister and implored him to continue working diligently in his capacity as a member of parliament. In responding to former President Edgar Lungu's statement, Information and Media Minister Cornelius Mwetwa, who is also Chief Government Spokesperson, says the resignation of Mr. Kakubo as the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation is this far anchored on morality, further saying Mr. Lungu's statement is politically mature.
For President Lungu, therefore, to find that as an issue that President HH has merely thanked Honorable Kakubo, we find that to be politically immature. We expect him, as former president, to do politics that is of a higher level, but maybe we are asking for too much, because he can only give what he is capable of giving and nothing more or less.
This is the second such scandal Mr. Kakubo has found himself in after he was seen leaving Sinoma Cement premises on Easter holidays of April 2022, noticeably with a parcel he claimed was a calendar and a diary he had collected from Sinoma. For now, all eyes are on the investigative wings to see what action will be taken next and how this whole scandal will unfold. Vincent Piri for Camnet TV News, Lusaka.
He has emphasized and urged the Constitutional Court to dismiss a petition challenging his eligibility to contest any future elections. The former Republican President Edgar Lungu has told the court not to labor to hear a petition commenced against him because it already ruled on the case. The former head of state has been petitioned by a youth activist, Michelo Chizombe, in the Constitutional Court, who is seeking a declaration that the former president was not eligible to stand in the 2021 presidential elections and is not eligible to contest any future elections. Mr. Chizombe, who has also cited the Electoral Commission of Zambia and the Attorney General as second and third respondent, further seeks a declaration that it was unconstitutional for the Electoral Commission of Zambia, ECZ, to accept Mr. Lungu's nomination during the 2021 elections under review, arguing that the former head of state was not eligible because he was sworn in twice as president in 2015 and 2016. Additionally, contends that the repealed Article 35 of the 1996 amended Constitution excluded a person who has been elected twice from contesting presidential elections. But in the latest submissions filed before court, the former head of state has insisted that the Constitutional Court cannot review a case it already made a ruling on. The former president submits that allowing the case to proceed when a ruling was already made will be in breach of res judicata. Res judicata means a matter has been adjudicated by a competent court. The former president has since urged the court to dismiss the said petition with cost because it is an abuse of the court process and lacks competence. Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
All right, stories there, both containing the former president Edgar Lungu, and in one story, he is urging the court to throw out the case in which his eligibility is being questioned.
Well, that is just like I had earlier said.
Yeah, you can't comment further.
Yeah, that's a court. That's an issue before the courts, and we can't comment further. We're restricted. It could be regarded as contempt. But we have to see how that gets to unfold, because we do remember that at some point we also had a case contending his eligibility even prior to the 2021 elections. So we see if that argument where he's citing the Constitutional Court to say the Constitutional Court handled this case already before, why is it also being brought before the court? It's more like you're repeating what was done already
and wasting the court's time.
Exactly. So we get to see how that case gets to unfold. But one of the stories that has hit the public by storm is that of former Foreign Affairs Minister Stanley Kakubo, who is alleged to be in a financial scandal and subsequently led to his resignation, of which a lot of stakeholders have received the resignation with open arms. Others have questioned the resignation, alleging that the president is actually shielding because he shouldn't have accepted that resignation letter from the former minister. I don't know what your take is. We also saw Minister of Information and Media yesterday addressing the press in Joma. Province.
Okay, so first of all, I would like to start with two questions. The first one, he's an individual, a citizen, just like any other. Shouldn't he be involved in his personal business? That's the first question. And the second one is, yes, he's a public figure. And we know for the fact that handling such huge sums of money is an offense. Why wasn't it transacted electronically? Yeah, those are the questions that I would like to be answered, but I don't know by who. And so, coming to the story itself, it's a tough one. But I would say allowing the former minister to resign doesn't send a good message to us as Zambians.
But well, the president is saying, I'm allowing the former foreign affairs minister to resign simply because I don't want someone to allege that, no, by the time this scandal came out, the president didn't take any step. So I'm allowing him to resign so that even independent bodies such as the Anti-Corruption Commission can do their job diligently.
But as it is, we are, in my thinking now, I would think the president didn't take an action. It's he himself, is conscious of Honorable Kakubo that compelled him to resign, and not the president taking action against him. The president merely accepted his resignation letter that was handed before his table.
But don't you feel that by virtue of him accepting, that's action enough? Because if anything, he would have rejected that resignation letter. So it sends a message that, look, I don't want to be held at ransom in terms of what is happening.
No, again, I'll go back to the fact that resigning and firing, they are two different things. So when you resign, it's you yourself. And the president merely accepting that, okay, you have given me this letter, you can go ahead, doesn't send a good enough or a strong message to others. Just like any other profession, you bring in 2 stories instead of the 3 you are required, right?
Yes.
And the boss just says, okay, it's fine, right? Instead of, when you bring 2 stories, they say, look for the other one. Which one sends a strong message?
Well, that's your own perception.
Yeah, that's my opinion.
That's
so
your opinion.
My opinion is to bring it out clear. The president was supposed to fire Honorable Kakubo so that it sends a message that the fight of against corruption is indeed a serious issue, that every minister, every government official, every public servant should be conscious of.
Well, this, even as if this debate continues, but we see that he has been cited for a lot of times on media, on different platforms, where he said, you see, if you are wrong, even in the end of year press conference, he did mention to say, even if you are UPND cadre, I am the #1 UPND cadre. That was the president.
Yes.
If you commit a wrong, you are on your own. And in this regard, he just had to accept the resignation letter of Honorable Kakubo and say, okay, well, thank you so much for the time you did serve in this portfolio, and we wish you all the best as you continue serving the people of Kapirim Posh.
Diligently.
Yes, diligent. They need to be self-diligent. Are they not Zambians?
Well, I'll leave it here. I will not comment any further. But yeah, the president has been strong when it comes to the fight against corruption. Has been, I think, every opportunity he has had to speak to his people. He has come out very strong, condemning all corrupt activities and condemning all those who are involved in corruption. What we await now is the investigative wings, and we haven't seen him summoned. Are they on break also?
Okay, well, I don't know either they're on break or not, but we get to recall that Stanley Kakubo story, and once we do that, we'll have an opportunity to usher in our guest this morning and draw a conversation from there that you too can also be part of and get to know 1 or 2 things in terms of how some of the challenges can be resolved. Still, stay tuned to Camnet TV. We continue on the other side with the breakfast show.
Amidst concerns over President Hakainde Hichilema's government fight against corruption, more questions demanding answers have been posed over the resignation of former Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation Minister Stanley Kakubo. Among persons to put forward their questions is Opposition Citizens First Party President Harry Kalaba, who says the acceptance of the resignation of the former minister is a sad reality, confirming that the president is a weak leader who is failing to accept that there is grand corruption in his government. Mr. Kalaba says Mr. Kakubo should have been fired, just like former Luapula Province Minister Derrick Chirundika was.
We are worried as Citizens First by the weaknesses that the president has exhibited on all this. And then also what worries us the most is the double standards that the president is applying. Why is it that the president has found it right to allow Minister Kakubo to resign on his own and not to fire him the way he fired Chirundika in Luapula Province? The fight against corruption has been compromised because the UPND, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema in particular, has never been serious with the fight against corruption. All he has been doing is to read statements written for him on corruption. That's what he does. To fight corruption in its entirety He has never done that, and that is very sad.
Meanwhile, former President Edgar Lungu has questioned the continued double standards being played by Republican President Hakainde Hichilema in the fight against corruption. According to a statement seen by Camnet TV News, the former head of state is quoted as saying, "I am compelled to comment on Mr. Hakainde Hichilema's continued shielding of his ministers and other senior government officials from corruption allegations, while on the same time proclaiming that there will be no sacred cows in the fight against corruption." The statement continues saying, last year in April, when Kakubo was first accused of corruption, Mr. Hichilema and not the Anti-Corruption Commission ACC was the one to declare him innocent. Meanwhile, in the letter from State House accepting Mr. Kakubo's resignation, President Hichilema thanked the former minister and implored him to continue working diligently in his capacity as a member of parliament. In responding to former President Edgar Lungu's statement, Information and Media Minister Cornelius Mwetwa, who is also Chief Government spokesperson, says the resignation of Mr. Kakubo as the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation is this far anchored on morality, further saying Mr. Lungu's statement is politically mature.
For President Lungu, therefore, to find that as an issue that President HH has merely thanked Honorable Kakubo, we find that to be politically immature. We expect him, as former president, to do politics that is of a higher level, but maybe we are asking for too much, because he can only give what he is capable of giving, and nothing more or less.
This is the second such scandal Mr. Kakubo has found himself in after he was seen leaving Sinoma Cement premises on Easter holidays of April 2022, noticeably with a parcel he claimed was a calendar and a diary he had collected from Sinoma. For now, all eyes are on the investigative wings to see what action will be taken next and how this whole scandal will unfold. Vincent Piri for Camnet TV News, Lusaka.
Thank you so much for still staying glued to Camnet TV Breakfast Show on a Thursday. And just like we did indicate that we'll be joined by Mr. Antfond Maele Banda, President for People's Alliance for Change, PAC, who some stakeholders have been saying he's been into oblivion, he's rarely seen. What is happening? Well, we do have him on set this morning. Good morning, Mr. Banda.
Yeah, good morning to you guys, and good morning to the listeners out there.
Yeah, thank you for joining us this morning. We know for a fact that people have been saying you are nowhere to be seen. Where did you go?
I went to rest.
You went to rest?
Yeah.
Does that mean that you also buried your plans of maybe contesting in 2026?
No, I mean, when you go to rest does not mean that you have buried your plans. I mean, you just need to go and re-energize, re-strategize. You must remember that there was a change of government, and there was no rush really. You needed to give time to people to settle and see what they're up to, and at the right time would come back and take up the mantle.
I know, Mr. President, you are also in tune in terms of what is happening in relation to the former Foreign Affairs Minister, resignation and the financial scandal. Your quick analysis over this issue, your take. Others are alleging that, you see, the President was supposed to fire, others are alleging that he's being shielded.
Well, I mean, for me, for starters, I mean, I think what has happened has happened. I mean, he's out of the job. I mean, something that is progressive, compared to what we've been seeing. For example, there have been people that were saying that, the Minister of Lands was saying, no, let's give, land to UPM cadres, and he was left. Obviously, Honorable Kakubo will be left as well and whatnot, but what has happened. So whether he was fired or he resigned, for me, none is here nor there. I don't think, for me, I would want to dwell on he should have been fired, he should have resigned. I think what's important is that he's not there, and then let's see, whether that business transaction had any, corruption in it or any sort of that, and then we'll check it out from there.
I know there's also been debate, still speaking to issues of allegations of corruption. How do you rate this administration when it comes to the fight against corruption? They've been in power for about 2 years and some months now.
I think we're yet to see, what are the promises they made regarding the fight against corruption. I mean, there's been a lot of allegations within UPND of corruption, which we feel that, they have not been worked on. There's been, there's been a lot of action reports, on corruption from the previous government. It looks like, whatever is happening is more like a witch hunt as opposed to the fight, for corruption. So we have not seen really, that fight, being the fight, to actually clean up and also create a new precedent going forward. So if I was to score them, they have not really done more compared to the promises and the pronouncements that were made before the elections of saying, there's so much corruption in PF, what. So it's more like they didn't find any evidence, which I know that obviously corruption was there in PF, but the way the fight has been taken, there's no score that we can say that they have scored. But on the contrary, I mean, let's see how the new law that was enacted, which the president announced on Friday, regarding some adjustments that have been made to corruption fight, where some cases will be taken, take 5 months. Let's see how that goes, But obviously, whether the period is 5 months or 6 months or 2 years, there has to be evidence, to actually pin people to corruption.
In case you're joining us, this is the Camnet TV Thursday edition of the Breakfast Show, and we're joined by opposition PAC leader in Anford Banda, who's just here to help us understand a lot of issues that are happening pertaining to the country's economy as well as the political sector and other issues. But let's draw your attention to, we know the president last Friday held an end-of-year press conference where indeed a lot of issues were brought up. Your key points that you indeed picked from this end-of-year conference, or did it meet your expectations?
Not really. It didn't meet my expectations in the sense that, looking at the challenges the country is facing, the address does not really, address, if I may say so, the issues, head on. It was more like an address where, the president even said next year is going to be like a home run, like things are just going to change, like. But when you look at a number of issues that were addressed, if you talk about the debt restructuring, which is being worked on, that we don't have a doubt, but it won't really have that impact on the economy. If you talk about the mining sector, there's a lot of work that needs to be done for things to really have an impact, in the economy. He talked about, the agriculture sector, like in the production of maize, it's a good, pronouncement, but there's no plans on the ground. Now if you look at the current situation in the economy, you find that number one, there are a lot of young people that are unemployed. Number two, we have pressure with the depreciation of the kwacha. Number three, you have the high cost of living and many other things. So the address did not really, the things that the president pronounced, when I seriously looked at them, I don't see things changing that much in 2024, and that is worrying.
You don't see things changing much in 2024.
Yeah.
But the president did announce the fact that 2024 coming out into the cost of living, cost of doing business being stabilized, because look, we're putting in a lot of measures. One of them is the debt restructuring, and also looking at ensuring that the kwacha gains strength. Is that not supposed to be assurance enough to the people?
I mean, the debt restructuring, obviously we don't have any doubt as PAC that, the government is working on the debt restructuring, and we are very sure that, the country should get a deal, very soon. But whether that is going to have a huge impact on the economy, that's another story, which we don't believe that will happen.
Why don't you believe that might happen?
In terms of the impact? First of all, we are not under pressure, from the debt, because we are not paying the $750 million, that is supposed to give us under pressure should the deal fail to go through. So if the deal was, so it's like we're already in the debt restructuring period, in short, because we are not under pressure. We're not paying that money. The money is not coming out of the, of the national treasury. What we're trying to do is to prevent, the paying of that money in the future, and then give confidence to the markets, Now, the confidence to the market can only go so far. You know, it can't sort out the problems. I mean, there'll be one or two investors that are going to say, okay, the debt restructuring was done, the country will be stabilized, you know, maybe a few investors. But you see, what I'm talking about is that we need a lot of, you know, solutions that have got nothing to do with the debt restructuring that we should have been working on already as we speak today, so that, you know, they are implemented. Because, like I said, there's no pressure. It's like we're already in that period of debt restructuring. All we're doing right now is to ensure that the contract is signed to prevent, you know, these things, you know, putting us pressure in the future. So what we would have loved to see was to see the UPND government, you know, implementing a lot of ideas and solutions outside, you know, the debt restructuring. While the Ministry of Finance is working on the debt restructuring, we should have seen a lot of more action, you know, in the SME sector, you know, in the agriculture sector, you know, in areas that would have, you know, a huge impact. Because, you know, I mean, if you talk about the debt restructuring, how is it going to impact, you know, the SME? Because even the Kwacha won't appreciate that much. You know, even if the markets are going to respond positively, the Kwacha might gain 1 or 2 Kwacha or 3 Kwacha at the most. But it is still stabilized. I mean, this is the same story I always refer to people, say that, look, you know, in 2021, when we were going for elections, the president said, when we change government, you know, the markets will have confidence. The Kwacha will appreciate when I'm selling at 10 and 14 hours, the Kwacha would have appreciated. But up to now, the Kwacha has actually over depreciated and actually broken the you know, the record. So there are a lot of fundamentals that the country needs to work on. You know, unfortunately, those fundamentals in the president's address, either they were not mentioned or they were just passively mentioned. You know, if you come to the mining sector as well, there's a lot of questions there. I mean, a lot of projects there, they're either in work in progress or they're in its infancy. If you talk about KCM, there was no update from the president on KCM. All he said was that you know,
the deal with more
that something is being worked on. You know, the process is ongoing. I mean, those are the words that he used. Now, if you remember very well, the KCM process has been ongoing for a long time. So we don't know when it's going to be done. I mean, the government announced a few months ago to say, you know, we have a deal, but there was no contract signed. Later it came out that the contract was not signed. And then the next thing is that the Shaft 28 in Wansha, you know, if you look at that, you know, they're saying that there's an investment of 1.5 billion. It's just to wait. You know, there's nothing that is showing that, you know, these guys are on site or they're coming or this is a contract, we've closed the deal. Then you come to other projects, like Ngomba project, which is supposed to be more of exploration work, you know, taking account of our minerals, because we don't want all the time to be surprised. You know, hey, they've discovered Sujilak, they've discovered gold, they've discovered whatever. So that's a good project, but it's a long-term project. You know, it's something for the future. You know, mines will be discovered maybe next year or the other year, and then there'll be licenses that will be issued, and then exploration works. So those are long-term projects. Now, coming to the deal that was paraded, you know, the International Resources Holdings, it's a good thing, you know, that we have found a potential investor in Mopani copper mines. But also there's a lot of questions about that, you know, investor. I mean, if you look at, if you do a bit of background check on that investor, you find that, you know, they don't seem to be anywhere. It looks like it's just a company that was registered in Abu Dhabi, you know, with some people behind it who, you know, maybe have a bit of money, but they don't have experience in running a mine. They don't have a lot of money. We don't have the proof. I mean, we haven't seen their financials. If you look at their website, they don't even know. They don't even say who their shareholders are. They don't even say where they operate from, like in terms of which mines they run. They don't talk about where they are doing value addition, where they're doing commodity trading, where they're doing what. So if you look at that, you find that, you know, there's a lot of questions. So when I score the mining sector, you know, I don't see much. But again, on the other hand, even if all those deals were to go through and, you know, KCM was to come through, you know, International Resource Holdings was to come through, you know, you talk about, which other one? Shaft 28 was to come through. The impact, again, like I said, it won't be as much. Because if you look at today, if I'm not mistaken, First Quantum Minerals employs about 16,000 people. So now the maximum for me when I was doing my calculation, indirect and direct jobs that you can get from you know, the investment in KCM and KCM, Mopani, and Shaft 28, the maximum you can get, I think, is 50,000. You know, 50,000, which is okay, but there are millions of young people. that are not employed. So it's like you advertise to say we want to employ 50,000 teachers. But you see, if you look at the millions of young people that are not employed, they want, and we need to focus on an industry that has got a huge impact. Yesterday, I was on one of the stations and I was talking about, the impact of technology. And I gave an example of in the music industry. If you look at what technology has done in the music industry, artists right now are able to actually, make more money than they used to do, in the days of when a JK or when a PK Chara, when a Yomaps nowadays, they're making more money because of technology. So what I'm trying to say is that why can't we actually duplicate, why can't we think, we cannot be saying no. We have Starlink, now, so we can now have internet in schools. It's good to have internet in schools, but technology is here for more, not just, internet access. It's here for more. We need to do more to generate income, to come up with ideas in the financial services sector, in the agriculture sector, in many other sectors, using technology, to actually, build that base. So, in a nutshell, in conclusion on the address, because we don't have all the time, in conclusion, yes. The challenge I have with the UPND government is that they are not looking at, they are focusing more on traditional sectors. The mining sector has been there before colonialism. The agriculture sector, yes, but when you look at the agriculture sector, what they're doing is that they're just trying to do better, just to make the system work better. There's no innovation.
What is supposed to change in the agriculture sector? If we talk about the agriculture sector currently being in a mess.
You see, if the agriculture sector is in a mess today, 2 years, 4 months of the UPND, what's the hope that is going to change in the next 2 years? Because the UPND, technically they only have 2 years in power. 2026, January, you will see. It will be campaign. It will be launching of projects here, there, what? No focus, on long-term goals. You get the point? So what should be done? For me, they still have a silver bullet, which is agriculture and SMEs. And these are high impact, sectors, because there are a lot of people that are involved in these areas. So like the president said, the peasant farmers are producing about 2.8 tons per hectare. And if you say a commercial farmer is producing about 10 tons per hectare. So now a peasant farmer is a farmer that is willing and that wants, to grow more, to make more money. And this peasant farmer already knows how maize operates. This peasant farmer stays, at the farm. This is your house, your munda wako liapo pacha. It's not far. Okay? Now, what's the challenge with the peasant farmer? And you see the peasant farmer, I don't need to encourage him. Say, no, Limani me this is Zambia. They want to, but they don't have the means. So what we need to do is we need to actually, first of all, improve the yield, from 2.8 maybe to 6. Already, if I'm a peasant farmer and I produce 2.8, I do 1 hectare and I produce 2.8 tons per hectare, and the government helps me on 1 hectare, to improve my yield from 2.8 to 6 tons per hectare. Already, I would have doubled my production, for my hectare. So, and I'll be very happy. So what do we need to do? We need to give them enough inputs. And the government does not have enough money to give inputs, of course. So there has to be a structure. Obviously the president mentioned about, the support that is coming from the banks. But the banks are a big culprit. The banks, they just talk big, but they do nothing. Because they're making money from the government and from multinational companies. They're not there on the ground. The president can say, no, the banks are doing this and what, but they're not there on the ground. But you need to have a deliberate program where banks commit to say that, okay, we as Zanaco, we're going to invest $20 million in this project. We as, Stanbic or whatever, and you raise money about $100 million, they invest, and you structure it, where maybe a peasant farmer that was doing 1 hectare, they go to 2 hectares, and you improve their yields. So you find that, just by working with the peasant farmers, who are the majority in the country, you will double, the production. We need to start small. We need to start from there. And then you would have improved the lives of millions of those people. Remember, this FISI program, according to what the president says, that it's got, I mean, we've got about 2 million peasant farmers. That's a high impact area. 2 million peasant farmers. And right now the government claims that they can only, support about 1,030,000, if I'm not mistaken. Something like that. So you have, in fact, even the 1,030,000, I doubt if everyone is supported. Because if I do just a check, I call people in Petauke, in Chadiza, I call people in a few other areas. They'll tell you that us we didn't receive enough youths, even people in southern province, they are complaining, So the issue is that if you look at the agriculture sector, the peasant farmers, they're about 2 million plus. That's a high impact area. And it's the easiest area, for you to actually harness, say that, we're going to go into this area, work with these farmers, improve their yields, they start producing 6 tons per hectare. We support them all the way. Make sure we put full support. The government should advertise for jobs in the agriculture sector the way they advertise for jobs, for the Ministry of Health. We need people on the ground. We need to say we are employing 10,000, agriculture to support staff to go and work with the peasant farmers on the ground. 10,000, young people from NRDC, University of Zambia, and wherever they apply. Then they are deployed in all these areas. They are supported. I'm telling you, the 10 million tons the president was talking about can be achieved. But what we need the most is to go first to 5 million tons. We can't be jumping, you can't be jumping from whatever we are to, we go to 5 million tons, but we can start with where the base is. Let's start with the peasant farmers.
All right, Mr. Banda, you were off from the political space. And this year, 2023, has been one of the most politically charged years in the middle of the term for a sitting government.
Yeah.
And I suppose you are following what was happening around the political scene.
Definitely.
Sure. So the issue was the shrinking democratic space. You are following that. What's your input on that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, no matter how the UPND government or the president is going to try and say democracy, we're doing better, there are no pandas, there are no cadres. The truth of the matter is that the arrest of opposition political parties is a sign of the shrinking democratic space. Now I'll tell you that this is something that is synonymous with characteristics of bad governance. I can tell you that for a fact. You can do your research, especially, if you follow the history of Africa and a lot of governments that were forming after colonialism, most of them were formed out of, groupings, whether it's tribalism or it's regionalism or ethnicity and stuff like that. So now what those people were doing is that they wanted to hold on to power, for themselves. Okay? So they were not allowing, people to oppose them, and they were actually, that's why you see that, from independence, most of the time from independence time, from the 1950s, I think the first country to get independence was Ghana, coming all the way to the early 90s when we started doing democracy. A lot of these countries were one-party states. You know why? Because they wanted to hold on to power. Now what would they do? They would arrest opposition political parties. They would arrest their opponents. In certain countries, they would literally kill them. They would not even want to tolerate, they would kill them. That's the reason why Africa has been entangled in a lot of, conflicts because of this. So now, if a government is going to justify arresting opposition political parties, that is not good. It's a bad sign. And I think, one thing the UPND must learn is that, from the past, we have seen the PF, they were doing it. They were arresting, President Echet was incarcerated for over 100 days. But did that make the PF win the 2021 elections? It didn't. So what the people of Zambia have passed that. This is what I always say. You underestimate, the capability of the people of Zambia. They have passed the issue of intimidating opposition. If they can't have minimum on the table, if the cost of living is high, if government officials are living extravagantly and yet them they are suffering, those are the things that would make people to vote the UPND out. Arresting Fred Membe or Sean Tembo or Hari Karaba or anybody will not guarantee their stay in power. It will not. So yes, the shrinking democratic space, there was clear evidence. Then the next thing was their involvement, in the PF wrangles. No matter how much they're going to refuse, how we read is how, government machinery is working around certain areas. Now, if you look at the so-called PF conversion, you'll find that, the convention happened on the 24th of October, 25th. You had all the office bearers verified. Now, in normal circumstances, the idea of changing office bearers, from the old ones to the new ones, is as good as registering a political party. Now, why does it take time to register a political party? It takes time to register a political party because, the individual office bearers have to be verified first by the police. They have to be interviewed at, Lusaka Central Police there. You have to go there, you're interviewed. Once you're interviewed, you have to do your fingerprints, at whichever police station. I remember us, we did them at Woodlands Police, you have to wait for the fingerprints. Then after that, the OP, the Office of the President, have to do their own background checks. They have to follow these people. And, when I'm an office bearer as Anford Banda, I have to put my, my references, maybe 2 references. Those references, they have to be also very checked. Now, if the convention happens today and, a grouping, comes up with this number of office bearers, new office bearers, and then, tomorrow all the office bearers are ratified by the Registrar of Society, then you should know that, there's something wrong there. I mean, this is clear. Then we saw what was happening in Parliament, what was happening with the state media, and if you look at, there's a stamp of Registrar of Society. It is stamped 25th Police Headquarters, I think IG, it is stamped by Lusaka City Council. City Council, they play a role, but I've forgotten what role they play. Then there is the same Registrar of Society. All these stamps, the OP, they didn't stamp. I don't know why they didn't stamp, but even the OP have got a role. Now, all these stamps, 24th convention, 25th, all these stamps. So you can see that there was fast forward, in doing things. So that's why we're saying, what? Wait a minute. I don't care about what happens to the PF. I mean, I'm not a PF member. If they've got differences, that's not my problem. My problem starts when the people that we've entrusted with government starts abusing the institutions that they've been entrusted with, for their own personal gains. Because if you're going to use government institutions, to fight your own political battles, then it means that is a personal agenda that you're pushing using institutions that belong to the people, that don't support UPND, So that's where the problem was, and, and we hope that, the judiciary, I'll tell you that, we hope that the judiciary, can actually, give people confidence, regarding this matter. I don't know what's happening in court, but we hope that the judiciary will actually deliberate.
As we wrap up, due to time, we know for a fact that we still have ongoing operations at the essentially open pit mine, and government is also thinking of halting the operation simply because of the ongoing rains that are there and the like. But the question one would ask is, where is the mining safety department? And in your view, as PAC, what is the strategic plan to ensuring that the high cost of minimum price is reduced? Because sometimes I've said,
first of all, I believe that it was a bit disappointing that with that huge accident that happened at Seseri, in his address when he was talking about mining, the president did not even touch that topic. He didn't talk about it. He didn't, recognize. I mean, it's the end of the address. You're supposed to take into account, things that happened and, give hope. We would have hoped that the president would have touched that topic. He would have actually mentioned the mining accident and also, give assurance that the government is working towards, ensuring the safety of the miners. But that was not mentioned at all. So I believe that, the miners, the families, they must have been disappointed with that in that regard. Now, I'm not sure if the Senseli mine is still operational because I think I saw in the newspaper the minister said that, that place is closed. Even if, there's a miner who died, just last week. So, but I think there's a clip that I saw of the president when he was in opposition where he talked nicely about the plans for, these, small artisan mining, small scale mining, Now, these things were said. I mean, and I can tell you that it's, even for me, I would say the same thing that the president said. But the question is that why aren't these things implemented? Because the president said it, I mean, very nicely. There's a clip where he was at his house, in community house, he was meeting these Jeroboams, and he said, this is what the government wants, to vote for us, this is what we're going to do, we're going to do. The clip is there. So the question is that why aren't those things implemented? So we hope that, there can be a change of things, because the UPND government does not have time. If that address, we're going to dissect it like this, the 2024 end of year address, it will not give us as much hope. Then they should just forget. Then even the Zambian people, they should forget that I think the UPN won't give us hope. What's the solution to minimum prices? Let's go and Lima. We need to produce more, and we need to give land to people, so that each and every person, the bus driver, a marketeer, a street vendor, let each and every Zambian have access to land so that they can produce their own food. And then we can sell the excess. We don't need NAPSA 20% withdraw. When we give each person a piece of land and give them, teach them how to grow maize, we can produce more, meet the 10 million tons, export excess, and bring in the much needed revenue, and then you do what? And then other people will be earning, from that.
Stakeholders from various walks of life have brought in their input when it comes to the end of year presser that was given by His Excellency Republican President Hakainde Hichilema last Friday, and a lot also have brought in their perspective as well as some of the things they feel were missed and the solution going forward, because 2024 is fast approaching. In the next 3 days we'll be hitting 2024, and a lot of people are looking forward to all those resolutions that were made. And in studio this morning, we do appreciate that we're honored to have Mr. Anford Banda as our guest this morning, just to help us understand most of the issues that are happening pertaining to the economic challenges the country is facing and what we need to look out for and their solutions as a party. It has been Nelson Zulu as well as Vincent Piri. We do appreciate for your time and staying tuned to Camnet TV. Remember that Camnet TV is not just another Tanya, and we say compliment of the season. Bye for now.